Bom dia, Portugal!
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, a live stream and podcast. And after the excitement of the last few days and the intensity of the last few days, how about we take it a little bit easier on this happy hump day, Wednesday, the 13th of March. I was told it was Friday the 13th this week. That must, yeah. I saw a post and it said, a full moon this week. The clocks have gone back. Is it? Forward. The clocks have changed, and it's a Friday the 13th. That is completely wrong, isn't it? That person hoist on their own petard. A self-fulfilling prophecy of a bad week where they called all those things wrong. There's not a full moon this week, according to Mrs. M. Or maybe there is. I don't know. But there you go. There's an indication of my midweek fatigue there after all this election coverage. Great Portugal club last night. Thanks to those gentlemen who turned up last night. Oh, and a lady as well later on in the proceedings. We have a meeting every Tuesday evening at 8 o'clock with a bit of a check-in for the mastermind of the Portugal club. So shout out to you, the mastermind. Thank you very much for what you do for the Good Morning Portugal show. See you next Tuesday. Oh, did I just say that? I didn't mean to say that. And this morning we welcome Paul Rees back at 9 o'clock. Going to find out more about his beloved Central Portugal and his new love, I think you could call it, after his couple of decades here in Portugal. He moved from the Algarve to Central Portugal and doing some great work there. And I thought this morning it might be nice to put Pedrógão Grande and that sort of area on the map a little bit more and find out more about it. And of course, with his 2-decade life here in Portugal, see what he thinks. Let's put the election into perspective and see what he's made of previous elections and what goes on in Portugal politically. Of course, Heather Binder joining us at 9:30 this morning on one of her twice monthly visits. And she's been very kindly showing people how to access the CEF portal, which it sounds like has been unmothballed. And she's been able to do some residency renewals, and she's been showing people how to do that online. So she'll be showing us how to do that this morning as well. If you need some help with that from Heather, stick around until 9:30. And 8:45, the weekly check-in with Expats Portugal as well. It's going to be an interesting webinar tomorrow evening with Daniel Rees of Rees and Pelicano. I'm getting quite German, aren't I, with my rolled R's? I think I need to sort of just get a little bit more Latin and less Teutonic with my... Daniel Rees of Rees and Pelicano will be with us tomorrow at 7. Well, I'll be with him at 7:30 tomorrow on the Expats Portugal webinar and a Dream Team session at 9. So we'll talk to Jacqui about that and her wonderful view of life. It was my pleasure to record some interview material with her about her experiences of being here in Portugal, and she always comes up with something a little bit different and new from the Jacqui angle, the Jacqui POV. So we'll talk to her in about 10 minutes, actually, here on the Good Morning Portugal show. Let's see how you're doing this morning. Coach Turner's in, Baddy's in, and Pete. Yeah, sorry, who are you calling a see you next Tuesday? It's just how it came out, Pete. Good morning. It's good to see you, Pete. I thought we might see you in the last couple of days. Hope you're well. And thank you for your very kind message as well, Peter. Yes, pop over to SMDP when we can be sure of some lovely weather in the Bay. It's looking like a nice one today for the meetup. So see you there. If you're coming to the, no need to see you next Tuesday. See you this lunchtime at the San Martino de Porto meetup. And you'll have seen the opening slide this morning. Not a meme, but an advertisement for the Storytellers Palace. The next, number 3, I am the resident journalist for these, and this one is coming up. Really looking forward to this one. An immersive experience with a test of your palate, which I failed miserably every time when I've taken part in the wine tasting pairing competitions. I don't know, Doug. It's a very poor bit of stereotyping. Apologies to our German community this morning. Unique tasting menu, wine tasting, tea tasting, coffee tasting, not to mention amazing food, live fado as well, but don't let that put you off. 22nd of March, that'll be, nearly a couple of weeks away, but 22nd of March, that's a week on Friday, isn't it? A week on Friday at 7 o'clock. And you know what? Right, we can do a little bit of a deal on that. If you want to come to San Martino de Porto and take part in that, which is the first two in this series, 13 at the table, have been exquisite. Epicurean extravaganzas, I call them. And you won't be disappointed if you come along, meet a winemaker, hear about their craft, their skill, and their particular angle, and the beautiful products that they create, and pair them with beautiful food. And a little bit of an emphasis on the tea tasting. That's Infusiones. I will be there again. And you may have seen, I've got a little video, actually. Let me just show you the video of the tea that was poured. We had tea at the end of our meal last time. So let me just take that off the screen. Oh, there you are. And play a little vid of how it went last time. This is just part of the evening. Oh, this legendary bit of video is from the Storytellers. And I haven't deleted it here. This is the fine tea experience we had at the end of the meal as well last time.
So delicious, you make me come alive, yeah. So delicious, I feel so good inside. So delicious, girl, you turn me on, yeah. So delicious.
Incredible. I don't think there were enough glasses on the table there, were there? That's so absolutely superb. Join us for the next one of those on Friday, the 22nd at the Storytellers Palace. And if you'd like a little bit of a deal on that, we can organize that for you. If you get in touch with me, and we'll let them know that there's a gumper coming to take part in that 13 at the table. Number 3 at the Storytellers Palace here in San Martino de Porto. So how are you? I'm just going to take it a little bit easier than I have over the last couple of days. Been staying up too late, watching what's going on with the politics. I had an idea today. Do you remember, did you do this when you were at nursery school or kindergarten? Do you think maybe at around, and I'm sure Heather won't mind this, at around 9:25 to 9:35, we have a little snooze? Everybody is quiet for 10 minutes and just has a little lie down or a bit of shut-eye, 40 winks, and we have a little sesh there. What do you think? Just like when we were at nursery school. And maybe then when we wake up, we can have a story and a plastic cup of Ribena and a little snack or something like that. That's what we should do, isn't it, this morning? Let me know what you think of that idea. And you know something else? As I was looking through my pictures, this came up again. The first time listening to Dark Side of the Moon. Now, Paul's joining us at 9, and I think he said his first time album with a bit of vinyl that really hit him as a teenager and really made a profound effect on his life was Ziggy Stardust, I think. David Bowie. So we'll talk to him about that as well when he joins us at 9 this morning. And always interested to hear about your musical memories as well. So let us know your first album too. And I've got music to play from Robert Yonker this week as well. Robert's got a new tune out, so we'll make sure you get to hear Robert Yonker's tune, new release from him. Inspirational music from Robert. Always a pleasure to play his music on the show. If you're a fan of Robert Yonker, just search him online, Yonker, Robert Yonker, and you can find his new release online as well. And tell him you heard about him on the Good Morning, or you were prompted by the Good Morning Portugal show. Good morning to you, Robert, if you're tuned in this morning over Tomar way. Right, let's go back before Jacqui joins us in a few minutes and see that James was in at 7:48. Bom dia, Gampas. Feliz carta todos. Tudo bem. Mindful moment from that man. Then you can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf. That is the mindful moment this morning. And thank you for filling in this space, the T-duck-shaped space this morning. John Kabat-Zine. So good advice there. You really can't stop the waves, folks. And does it feel like they're a bit choppier than usual at the moment to you? The fact that some people then, a mindful dad joke, can't distinguish between etymology and entomology bugs me in ways I can't put into words. Very good. And let's do your visuals now, so that I don't forget them. I've not looked at these, and he gets me into all sorts of trouble sometimes with these. 45 whole seconds of uninterrupted meditation. There's Lisa with her Legos at the top there, or similar toy. And if I remove your very own comment here on the screen, we can see what the punchline is of this. And then wondering if my ex really even liked me to begin with. Oh, yes, that can happen. That's a meditative moment, isn't it? Which turns out is not very meditative. But eat my shorts, the past. Leave me alone. And now you see what you've done, James. You've got people. This is how eager the mind is to seize upon things. It's an excellent illustration, really, isn't it, of the power of the mind. You will have started people wondering if their ex really even liked them to begin with. Of course they did, didn't they? Let's have a look at your other visual this morning. Then over to the Star Trek Enterprise, Starship Enterprise. I always feel bad when I make Star Trek misreferences or appear to know nothing about. And I watched it on a Thursday night. I think I never really got into Star Trek or Star Wars. Forgive me. My nephew needs, but I do find these funny. My nephew needs a job. Do you have any suggestions? He should apply for the search and rescue team. They're always looking for someone. Captain Kink, that's called. Naughty. Right, okay. Let's go back to your comments. Barry's here as well. Hola, bon dia from Saya. Today, I hope to launch a fundraising campaign for the people of Grindavik who are losing their homes. Is that because of the volcano? If I may, I will send a link with permission during the show. Of course you can. Absolutely. For anyone who wants to help out the people of Grindavik who appear to be losing their homes there. Never mind. Wednesday is the new Friday. It is meetup day. What's going on there? And let's go to the God Squad tip of the day then. And say hi to Jacqui, the humble crafter too. Bon dia, everyone. And bon dia, bon dia, bon dia. Y feliz a todos. ¿Cómo estás? Hoje, the rain has finally stopped. So out for a walk this morning with a coffee en route. Well done. The family had a really late night coffee last night. It was lovely in the Bohemia Cafe, where I had a Bohemia beer. It was very nice. Oh, and who's coming to the Caldas de Reina Beer Festival this weekend? I'm not sure which day to go. Let me know if you're going along to the Caldas de Reina Beer Festival, if you're going on the Saturday or the Sunday. Might extend that trip to the Black Sheep pub as well, that is pouring draft Guinness. And I think, is it St. Paddy's Day on Sunday? We might be speaking to Bobby on Friday, so we'll find out more about that and how we can celebrate St. Patrick's Day here in Portugal. So maybe Caldas is a good day to go to, maybe Sunday is a good day to go to Caldas for the beer festival and then along to the Black Sheep pub. Let me know if you're heading this way for that. I like this Albert Einstein quote, says Coach Turner, do not grow old, no matter how long you live. Never cease to stand like curious children before the great mystery into which we were born. Yeah, and have a little snooze at 9:30 as well. Make sure you do that. Yes, that's excellent. Never cease, certainly, to stand like a curious child before the great mystery into which we were born. It's such a good reminder. And to see the majesty and miracle of life. I think there are so many forces at work at the moment that are telling us life is dismal and difficult. And it is at times, isn't it? No question about that. But we've got to get the balance right. So thanks for that, Coach Turner. God Squad tip of the day. And talking of rays of sunshine and positivity, I'm hoping we'll have Phil Cooklin on the show tomorrow morning talking about his new project, which is a real contribution to human happiness. God Squad tip of the day then. If you don't want to walk, who wouldn't want to walk? Apart from those who can't, if you can, why wouldn't you? What other activities are good for improving stamina and overall health? Swimming is possibly the best all-round exercise as it works most of the body. And then oops, upside your head. I said oops, upside your head. Rowing with a sliding seat runs it quite close, though, using some 90% of your body's muscles, though just getting out into the garden and tending the plants is also good for you. Of course, get into the green gym, right? And all the benefits of being outside in the open air, the vitamin D and the fresh air. Really, any activity where you are moving around and building up a sweat is helping you keep you healthy, is helping to keep you healthy. And who doesn't like to build up a sweat first thing in the morning? Yes! And Michael Martin also in. Should we have his greeting? We will. We'll have his greeting until another one is sent in on 913-590-303. Over to you, Michael.
Bom dia, Portugal!
That does echo a little bit through the valley there. And maybe we'll get Jacqui to do it while she's here across the rooftops of Cascais this morning as well. Oh, it's 8:47. Let's just say a few more quick hellos then. Dougie, good morning to you. Me and Doug are starting a new podcast on Friday evening, just before that. We're like the fluffers for the man cave. So we'll be having a chat. Two men with big columns here in he of the Portugal News, me of the Portugal Resident. And we'll have a chat. And he said, what are we talking about on Friday? And I think we'll cover our mutual love of Portugal. And then we will go into the old fartosphere, if I may refer to it as that, and look at life through the lens of men of our age and endeavor to be good elders. See what that might mean on Friday night at 9 o'clock. And maybe you might want to join us at 9 on Friday evening. I think we'll have a glass of wine in hand. And we'll be quite unguarded. Dougie's unguarded anyway, isn't he? I think he's gone past that threshold of not bothering too much about how he wants to express himself publicly. Although he does say from time to time, "Well, you can't say that anymore, can you?" You know that thing. And I'll be talking to him about that. I think he does say what he wants, and then says, "You can't say that anymore." We'll talk about that on Friday. That funny device of men of a certain age saying, "You can't say that anymore," having just said it. Well, morning to you then, Michael, Dougie, Pete, Nubionette. Thank you for your feedback as well on the Shager interview yesterday. And Owen, good morning to you, mate. Inspired by Incognito album Positivity. I was cooking yesterday. Photo sent morning. Oh, let's have a look at Owen's food as well this morning. But now, nice big round of applause. Over to Cascais. Were you giggling about men of a certain age there?
Yeah, and you're saying you're fluffers and the fartosphere.
I'm not really selling it very well, am I?
No, you're not selling it at all.
Okay, let's put most
I thought it
people
was
off.
funny.
Okay, right.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning to you, Jacqui. How are you? How is life over there this morning?
Very, very good. We have something great, really interesting, I think, coming up this Thursday, and I wanted to mention. Rees and Pelicano, Daniel Rees, will be talking about buying and renting property in this country. And one of the things I tell people, and this is a really important one because as a person who purchased property in March of 2020, in the beginning of lockdown and the pandemic, besides it being a difficult time, I always say I made every single mistake you could make in purchasing property. And I think we talked about that. I think I shared that with you.
I heard it was a new website about moving to Portugal called don'tdowhatjacqui.com.
Oh my gosh, I so made every mistake. And I think that if you ever thought about renting or buying, this is a really important one because I will say the first mistake I made, there's two. I used DreamX, and I had an excellent real estate person, but I assumed DreamX here was the same as the US because it's the same company. That was my first mistake. The second mistake I made was when RE/MAX said, "Oh, don't get your own attorney. Don't spend the money. Just use our attorney." I was only to realize later that attorney was never representing me. It was only representing the seller. I had no representation in that situation. It's just that alone changes everything.
Doesn't it?
And so that's just the beginning. So I would strongly recommend anybody, especially if you're coming from the US, but anyone, because even though laws are different, very different in the UK, this is an important one. Because the mistakes are incredible that you can make. And if nothing else, retain your own lawyer.
Yes.
That's the first thing.
And I think Daniel will also be showing people how to buy a tiny house like the one in the picture. Any size of house will be talked about tomorrow evening. Always great to talk about. And you know what I'm going to do? The first thing is going to ask him about the election result and what it means in terms of the machinery, because he was... when I think he studied law, as well as being an expert in house purchases and what you've just talked about, and also citizenship. He covers citizenship, doesn't he? Oh, and the will thing. about making
Oh,
sure your will works here in Portugal. He's
we just made an appointment with him yesterday to get our
about
wills
that.
done.
Excellent. Yeah, he does that. He's also a student of the Constitution here in Portugal, so we'll talk to him about how soon a government might be formed and how soon thereafter it might be able to make law if they don't have a hung parliament and then have another election early next year. We'll see what happens. So that's Daniel of Rees Pelicano at 7:30 tomorrow evening, and Dream Team at 9, of course. Jacqui, it was a good one last week. You were out and about, weren't you?
Oh yeah. Expats Portugal, with one of their affiliates I was working with, which is Expatsy, and we were doing a scouting trip through Porto, Lisbon, Cascais. They did Setúbal and the Algarve.
Cool.
And these people fell in love with Portugal in the rain, and
Yeah,
it
I'm
was
sure.
so cold.
Yep. That's interesting. So what did you do? Did you get on the back of the bus with them and you were part of the team, interpreting and explaining what goes on here?
It was a kind of a very different model, and I really did appreciate it because people were learning about how all the different neighborhoods, let's say in Porto, and all the different vibing neighborhoods in Lisbon and Cascais, and how that's different than Setúbal. And so one of the most important things is that people had the freedom. There was a schedule, but people said, I think I'm going to spend an extra day in Setúbal because I think that's where I want to live. And I'll catch up with you on the following day. So there was a lot of kind of in and out of people moving around, which really I thought worked very, very well as a model because they weren't stuck on the bus the whole day doing things they didn't want to do.
Yeah, fair enough. Some people like that, don't they? I think some people like to have every one of their needs taken care of, and that's some people's idea of a great trip.
I would say that's kind of us, the boomer kind of thing. But there were people as young as 24 on this trip.
Really? Wow,
Yeah.
that's quite an interesting demographic change, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say it was 24 to 74, with the average age in mid 40s to early 50s.
That's interesting. So do you think there is a demographic shift there, that the average age of people looking at Portugal and moving to Portugal is dropping?
I really think that because I think the big reason is this. If you're going to do the math and you're coming from the States, and let's say your taxes may go up a bit here, not what you think it is, but they may go up. If you're not ready for Medicaid or Medicaid, I believe, then it makes huge economic sense to be here because you may be paying slightly more in taxes, but you're going to more than make up for that in your health care and what that's going to cost you yearly. So for this kind of group, in that age group, especially the remote worker, this still makes a lot of financial sense, and it's safe and it's beautiful, and the food is amazing. And I think there is a new demographic coming. I really do.
Very, very interesting. Okay. And if people want to get onto these scouting trips with you, and I might like the sound of that, that's a little less formal and that you can focus on the areas you want to go to, get in touch with Expats Portugal about that? Yes,
absolutely. Get in touch with us, and we'll, as we usually do, we'll help you kind of figure this whole thing out. When's a good time for you, how to do it. And I would say one of the most important things about this, and this is what struck me, I am lucky enough to do consultations with people who want to move to Portugal. And what makes those consultations so uniquely satisfying and so amazing is that people who are thinking about changing their life at a crossroads in their life, excuse me, are filled with hope. They're like, this is something great. This is something new I'm going to do. And maybe they don't ultimately do it, but most do. But they're filled with hope and positive energy.
Oh, how lovely to be in that atmosphere as well. I guess that was really nice.
Well, that's how it is basically every consultation I have.
Yes. Yeah.
But now we have a whole group of people like this, and that real positive energy of hope,
Mm.
it like kind of feeds this group, and the esprit de corps is just like,
Oh,
it's so lovely to be around people like this.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that's a very interesting point. And I mean, I guess you can't live in that all the time. You can't keep moving to Portugal once you've done it. But there are ways of keeping that alive or connecting with that energy. That's wonderful. How
Yeah, it's great.
inspiring, says Jim White. How inspiring, Jacqui. Good morning to you, Jim. Lovely to see you here. Before you go, Jacqui, I need your Cascais weather report, of course. How's it looking over there?
Perfect.
Oh,
It's an
I'm getting
amazing
a sense
morning.
we're getting the occasional glimmer of your kitchen because Pete was concerned that you have an intruder behind you. But it's just
Oh,
breakfast being made. Relax, Pete. It's just breakfast being made.
oh, I thought it was completely blocked. No.
It's with the way the green screen works. There's occasional flash of your kitchen behind, but that's because the sun is probably very bright and lighting up. It's not a problem. This is a breakfast show, and we are seeing breakfast being made in real time occasionally. I got no problem with that at all.
Wait, I see a little bit because I moved too
yeah,
much.
there you go. What are you having for breakfast in the beautiful Cascais sunshine?
I am having meia de leite,
Good,
and a
excellent.
mango, and a
Very
fresh mango.
nice, excellent. Okay, and we'll be talking to Paul, who's joining us in just a moment, about his the experience he had as a teenager listening to a David Bowie album. Do you remember the first profound album you listened to as a teenager, or maybe even younger?
As a teenager, believe it or not, I grew up on Motown and
Oh,
R&B.
you are
But-
so lucky.
Well, that's because I grew up in the projects of New York City part
Right.
of my life. But the real shift was the first time I heard a Bob Dylan album.
Okay, yeah.
And that was really because that was so different than
Yes.
anything I had ever heard where
Yeah.
I grew up.
Yes.
So that was really
It's quite the
meaningful.
contrast, isn't it, from the beautiful melodies and rhythm of Motown and the upbeat dance floor stompers. you made the trend.
And then it was Bob Dylan.
Is blowing in the wind.
That was exactly it.
Sexual conscience, though. I mean, it does mark a shift, doesn't it? I guess that is, in many ways, it is. It's the move from middle school to senior school, almost, isn't it? And the seriousness that one can cultivate in those years as well. That Bob Dylan will, of course, have reflected back to young people. Wow. Okay, and don't forget, Jacqui, as well. We have chosen the Eurovision tune. It's called Grito this year. So the Eurovision entrant has been chosen. And Portugal refused to go for a sort of a cynical Eurovision tune. They go for the one they like the most, which I think is a lovely way of doing it. And the tune this year is called Grito, and it's by an artist called Iolanda. And that was the other election that happened last weekend, the choice of the Festival de Canção winner, who will be representing Portugal. Erica over there is asking, and where are the Eurovision Song Contest viewing parties? If you're having one of those, do let us know. I don't know if there's going to be an Expats Portugal Eurovision party.
There should be.
There should be, shouldn't there? Yeah, it's an interesting event. If not brilliant musically, it's an interesting cultural event these days. Thank you, Jacqui. I'll see you tomorrow evening.
You will.
Enjoy your breakfast. Enjoy your mango.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. And I think we should keep that applause going for Mr. Rees, who's just joining us now in central Portugal. Oh, look at him enjoying the applause this morning. The adulation. Who doesn't like to be adulated first thing in the morning? How are you, Paul?
I'm very well. Early start. I'm north of the Serra da Estrela, so I'm 3 hours from home. So I've got some.
The sound is good. The lighting is perfect. I mean, you look like you're having a beautiful central Portugal day there this morning.
It's crystal clear, actually. It's fantastic. The sound is good. There's a bit of music from the Intermarché loudspeaker because I'm sat in the car park of Intermarché in, where am I? Gouveia.
Gouveia. Okay, interesting. Why is there music? They just pipe music through the PA there, do they, Intermarché?
Clearly to put people in a happy shopping mood. Not quite sure how that works.
You might have to run to the store at any minute as you're being conditioned musically to purchase things.
Well, I've already had an angry moment because there's a queue to get a coffee, so I had to do.
Disgraceful!
No.
You didn't fight in 2 world wars for that sort of treatment, did you? Honestly.
I mean, then they know who I am.
Right. And we'll dwell on music for a moment. I think when you saw this, you were, I know I've mentioned you this morning and your reference to David Bowie and the Ziggy Stardust period. I think that was that special for you, if I remember correctly from your comment?
It was my first album. Yeah.
Right.
So I remember buying it, pedaling home, buying it with I think with a record voucher from my gran.
Oh, happy times.
For 10 bob, however much an album cost then, maybe a quid, I don't remember. And and lying as a disaffected youth, listening to it, thinking this is quite exceptional. It's like nothing I've ever heard before. And I've followed Bowie's career with huge interest, the ups and the downs, the low periods, Berlin, and then his sort of happy re-emergence as a good-looking middle-aged creative. And I still haven't been able to listen to his last album, the one he released almost on the same day as his death, I think.
Right. What would you? You'd find that too difficult?
Yeah, I still would. Yeah. It's just a thing now. I'm sure if I sat down and did it, but it's just a lifetime of memories, really. It's funny how music is also the soundtrack of our years.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting. Certain songs come on and immediately you're back somewhere.
Well, which takes us back into Intermarché, doesn't it? Because it's incongruous sometimes how a strange classic from the 70s or 80s will turn up on a supermarket PA system or Portuguese radio, and who knows, you might have a celestial moment as a sort of visitation from David Bowie in aisle 7 one of these days in Intermarché somewhere in central Portugal.
Or in the fresh fruit and veg.
A special moment. Right, there you are in central Portugal. And I was hoping this morning you might tell us a little bit, because you've lived in Portugal a long time. You have a long-standing connection with Portugal. And you've seen, whilst there are some people in this community for whom this is the first exciting election, you've seen one or two in your time here. And also to focus a little bit more on for you to tell us a little bit more about the area you're focusing on in central Portugal, as attention around the world, I think, starts to fall more on areas outside of the usual suspects here in Portugal. So let's start with the election thing. Do you know how many elections you've witnessed here in Portugal?
Well, however many since 2002. So I remember pre-Socrates and then Pedro Passos Coelho, and the faces sort of blend into funny, they said into mugshots quite rightly, and then we end up with the current impasse. It's nothing else but an impasse.
Okay.
It's as if one party won by a vote. It's effectively the same. It's completely hung parliament. So I don't envy the president having to, as best he can, unravel it. But what is there to unravel? The country has decided what it wants. It is a democracy.
Yeah.
Regretfully at times, I'm often for benign dictatorship, but only if it agrees with me. So, it's interesting. The rise of Ventura in Chega has been impressive, and to me it's a bit of how can I put it, like a pressure valve where people are sucked up with what's going on around them, in terms of frozen wages, higher prices, etc., which then is firmly blamed on whatever government is in. And then along comes somebody who's talking sense, probably to the baser instincts of our makeup, and clears up 20% of the vote. If that didn't exist, would we still be neck and neck with left and centre ground? Interesting, but that's the situation we're in, and it is now up to the President of the Republica to hold the interviews with the various party heads, including the tiny ones, and say, probably say, what would you do in my position?
Yes. Well, it sounds like that's what you would do in his position.
Well, the key thing for Portugal every year is getting the budget through. Right. And without a budget, that relates straight to Brussels. Brussels needs to know the country's being well run. It's within its parameters. It's still a debtor nation. We're not flush with money, even though there's a current account surplus at the moment. But it's important to get that through. And with a hung parliament, if there's bickering over that could go on. There'd have to be another election. Yeah, and that's what people are saying already. That okay, we've had a go at it. We might run something that doesn't really work for a while, but we need a proper result next year, early 2025. Who knows what will happen then if it's the same situation? And I don't think we're going to end up in a sort of Italy situation where the government changes every 11 minutes. A general election it's a sort of big weighty thing that happens. A lot of effort goes into it, but this result is it's kind of I wish it had never happened. But I remember elections before where there have been clear majorities. But if you look at when the last socialist government got in, not the second time, which was a massive majority, but the first time, they didn't actually get the most votes. It was up to the president to say, right, if you can link up with the left wing, with the commies, with whom they hadn't shared bread for decades, you're in. Which obviously that left the PSD, even though it had a majority of the votes, not continuing in office. So that bit of flexibility that can come in from the president, but it will be a true test of his negotiating skills, I think. But I'm kind of not sure what there is to negotiate, because Chega doesn't really want to play with anybody. They feel very empowered. They'd love another election. Yeah. And if you take the other two parties, who can they link with to make a big majority? They can't. So it's just it's a weird situation. And
impasse, as you put it. Yeah, absolutely right. A great analysis. Thank you for that, Paul. With your longer term perspective on these matters. And yeah, it does seem a bit deadlocked. And you might say a little, too much democracy, which has not just you, but other people, saying, yeah, how about a benign dictatorship, as long as it agrees with what I think about life. But, I mean, that's what we're experiencing, isn't it? It's like it's too much democracy, which you have to say on one level is a great thing, but it's not the best thing for getting stuff done, is it? And then having a functioning society, because they haven't even come together to form a government to make any laws yet, and that's looking very unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, I could be rude and go back to Churchill's quote about the average voter, but I won't. I think the public were fairly well informed over this one. There was a lot of build-up, a lot of pre-publicity, a lot of shouting, and a lot of very, very good speeches. So I don't think it's a case of like the pre-Brexit period where there was clear misinformation for a political end. I think here it was well discussed and widely discussed, and the country politically is in a mess. It starts with finances, as ever. A bickering household is usually bickering over money, and that has an impact on all sorts of aspects of life. I think here post COVID, there's a bit of a Brexit effect on Portugal, but not a huge amount. But post COVID, certainly. The country spent a lot. It's not a rich country. It's 10.4 million people. Yes. And I think that, you correct me if I'm wrong, but the amount of taxpayers, it's under 3 million. I mean, it's children and old people first, and they seem to be the vast majority. So if you look at the finances first, any party that says it's going to sort the money out will naturally get a large proportion of the vote.
Yes, and in a benign dictatorship, we could have children and old people paying more tax as well, couldn't we? That might help a little bit, but not a massive vote winner. But then again, you don't need that if you're a dictatorship, do you?
Net pocket money tax, excellent. We could bring back the cigarette lighter tax.
We've solved it, Paul. I knew we would. I think it would be great to influence some more financial literacy within the people of Portugal. I think that's a good idea worldwide, isn't it? And that probably does connect with the Churchill quote. You know, people, I guess, are not in the most educated state sometimes, which makes them quite a good asset to the government and to politicians, that is. And maybe tax the Portuguese less and maintain the current taxes for foreigners. Oh, that would probably go down well with Shager there. Good morning to you, Stephen White. And there's some talk about, you might be able to answer this. The Nanu is here this morning, as is Larry. Good morning to you, Larry McCarthy. Always looking for Lou Reed's Perfect Day Transformer album. Perhaps it's today. Excellent. Thank you for that memory there. Yeah, this €1 house European thing, I think that was more popular in Greece and Italy. No such thing here in Portugal. There's not been anything like that here, has there, Paul?
No, there has been. There's help from local councils as much as they can help, and there's I don't know if it still exists, but there used to be a sort of young married couples grant to encourage babies. I remember that in the Algarve. It was Far East and Far West, the most underpopulated areas. But no, there's no £1, €1 houses here. I mean, this scheme, I looked at it in Italy and Greece, I think, but you had to. There's a reason why houses in villages become abandoned and why villages become abandoned.
Yes.
Sadly, if you're repurposing them for tourism, that's one thing, and I think that certainly the local authority could take a part in that, in providing equivalent to logement local and a grant on that and tax breaks on that. But there's only so much a local authority can do. It can give relief on planning permission, on building licenses. It could, I mean, not avoiding them, but not charging so much for them.
Yeah.
But the Italian experiment, I mean, it looks great. It's a great headline grabber. But if you want to buy an old crumbling Italian village house that's possibly earthquake damaged, and there's a reason nobody wants to live in it, because the cost of doing it up is way more than its resale value.
Yes.
And there's also, you had to live there for a certain amount of time. You can't have them as holiday homes. So they were genuinely, and still are, trying to repopulate. Has it attracted swathes of American retirees to regenerate the Cafe Nero? I don't know. I've never seen any reports on the success or otherwise of such a scheme.
Very interesting. And I think you're going to need a lot more than €1 to bring it back into any sort of habitable state. And it looks like just quickly, an aside on the encouragement for people to have children and move to the interior. I see the birth rate is rising. Positive birth rate is rising here in Portugal, as are the number of sexually transmitted diseases. But I suspect the foreigners might be getting blamed for the latter there. We'll see what people think in the chat about that bit of news. It came on the same day. More children, but more STDs. Was some of the reporting that I saw last week. And we'll come back to your comment, Stephen. It's a good one as we talk more and continue this theme here of regeneration, because I think that's a lot what you're about, Paul. The cheapest that Antonio found, €4,000 in the countryside. I read that a Portuguese YouTuber bought half an abandoned village. Yeah, we picked up on that as well, in the countryside for 100,000, and is restoring it for tourism. And it is located in the Peneda Gerês National Park, a beautiful place to be. Similarly beautiful to where Paul has focused his attention here in Portugal. So tell us more about that, then, Paul. This region, and maybe connect it, if you can, with this whole drive towards regenerating the interior of Portugal.
Yeah, it's all down to economics. It's down to money. I think governments can try and influence and make things easier, but at the end of the day, it's lots of people making economic decisions. I based rural properties equidistant between Lisbon and Porto for very good reason, because it's more active than, say, over in the Castelo Branco area. I don't mean the region, I mean the city. So it's Pedroga Grande, I suppose, is our heartland. If you drew a 40-kilometre circle around that. So it takes in Castanheira de Pera, Figueira dos Vinhos, Sertã. So it's an area that is a well-known second home area for Portuguese families. Many have hereditary homes there, but have gone to the cities to work. And the buildings that sit empty, a lot of them are owned and used in the summer. So it's not the case where there are so many ruins. The village I live in, there's 2 tumble down houses and the rest are in perfectly good condition. So that's of about 150 properties. So it's to do with economics, and that north-south axis, and then heading just inland or west of Figueira de Foz is a buoyant area, yet it needs more to be able to actually to house people, to house tourists and to house incomers. Houses need to be upgraded. So firstly, they need to be sold, and there's a tradition in Portugal of hanging on to houses till they fall in to hand on to their children and children's children. When push comes to shove, and when the economy is at a low, people lack money, then older properties do come up for sale. And as prices rise generally, properties come on the market because people think, wow, I never thought my 30 grand house was now worth 80. So it's the economics of it. I mean, all I do is buy uninhabited buildings legitimately from owners and recreate them as I'd say fit for purpose. I'm not quite sure what the word would be, but one step below luxury homes. So homes that have got insulation, heating, double glazing, cooling if necessary. It's just creating something that Portuguese nationals or incomers can get the key, open the door, and everything works. And it's equivalent of a new house, but in an old frame, if you like.
Very good. We had a little look at the location on the map there. Castanheira de Pera, a key town that you mentioned there, Figueira dos Vinhos as well, and Pedroga Grande itself. Sadly, some people will know that as the centre of the fires somewhat 6 or 7 years ago as well. And that's why it was in the news back then. But what an amazing area this is. And interesting, you talk about Portuguese second homes. It's a bit different, isn't it? I think the Portuguese second home phenomenon. And it's a very different sort of cultural angle. This is the country where it's not always viewed as a positive thing to inherit a house. If you come from the UK, there's a kind of dream, isn't it? Like the that Russell Crowe movie where he gets an email from a lawyer who says, you contact your distant aunt who you never met has left you a house in Tuscany. And that's the dream for Brits, isn't it, to have that happen? Whereas in Portugal, it's like, oh no, we've been left another house in central Portugal from a cousin or an auntie or something. Is that what you mean with second houses? They belong to the family, don't they, rather than an individual necessarily?
Yeah, I mean it's a result of no inheritance tax. So if you're all 4 great grandparents own 2 houses, your grandparents own 4, and so it goes on, and you can end up with fairly elderly people owning 5, 6, 7, 8 properties, and 58 different tiny plots of land. It is a pain. The annual cost of them is not significant. The equivalent of the council tax bill, IMI, is not great on older properties in these areas. So they sit. So a lot of what I do it the other way around. I don't wait for things to come on the market. I often will identify something that I like the look of and find out who owns it. And it's inevitably, someone around the corner, or Lisboeta, somebody from Lisbon, and they come only in the summer, and that's their nice new house over the hill. So it's and when people are approached, they say, "Oh, well, we never really thought of selling it." Yeah, you're right. They sit there. They're like a collection something sitting in a drawer. So
It
it's
is like a house version of an heirloom, and you say, going into some dilapidation possibly in the countryside, and out of sight, out of mind. That's the other thing, isn't it? I mean, a lot of these are, I see this even in San Martino de Porto where I live. Like there'll be a lot of renovation and upgrades and new builds here. And then between two, brand spanking new buildings or recently upgraded buildings, an old thing where I'm in my mind, I'm walking past it thinking, the people who own this moved to Brazil or somewhere else in the world, and they don't even know. They've forgotten it's here. The people in the town live with it every day, with its roof falling in, and the actual owner of it is miles away and hasn't thought about it for years, and sometimes maybe even have completely forgotten about it in this gem of a place.
Yeah, and you end up with one property owned by 30 different people. It becomes impossible at some point. If you have a crumbling house in a town, the council will insist that you repair the front of it at least. Okay. And if you don't, they'll do it and send you the bill. And that started to happen when I left the Algarve. It wasn't the reason I left, but some of the things where bits of house were falling into the street. Obviously, there are safety issues. Yes. Can I just quickly go back to the Pedregal Grand fires, because
yes, of course,
you're right. It did put Pedregal Grand on the map in not a positive way, and it was internationally reported. There was a high number of deaths, and the aftermath, the political aftermath, was despite expressed sadness and a presidential visit, it showed that the rural regions of Portugal were not following the perfectly sensible fire regulations that had been put in place some years before, and that's what was concentrated on as a result. And then up and down the country, around villages, you have to have X meters cleared. Your land, you can't just let grow as scrubland, you've got to clear it. All these things were, as I understand it, were perfectly good existing laws, but weren't being adhered to, or certainly the GNR weren't involved in finding people that hadn't cleared their land. That now is very different. All I seem to see year in, year out is road crews strimming to the side of the road and removing lines of trees to the 10 meter mark. It's really a question of every little helps. That people asked me about the fires, and I said, well, the two big fires last year, one was in the Algarve and one was over in between here and Castelo Branco. So wherever you've got greenery and forests that people like, there's a likelihood, there's a possibility of fires. It happens, and this is a pretty woody country. The important thing is how that's dealt with, and the subsequent, or the government at the time has put enormous resource into perhaps headline resource, but into fire, what do you call it when you got lookouts?
Oh, they call them sappers here, don't they, as well?
Yeah, you got them as well. You got the people up tall structures looking out over the countryside. You've got some drone usage. You've got hopefully a bolstering of firefighting resources. There's certainly more airplanes under contract, more firefighting. The good thing about the central area is that if there is a fire, there's plenty of water to put it out. And I did sit by Cabril Reservoir one summer watching the planes coming in and scooping up water. And
it's extraordinary, isn't it? Yeah.
And they're just making it over the far end. Luckily, it's quite a nice valley, but it's quite impressive.
Thank you for making that point, because it was reported around the world, and I think it did put people off the idea of living in that region. It is a risk, isn't it, as people know from other parts of the world, where the conditions are such that there is a fire risk and there is a wildfire risk in Portugal and in central Portugal. Although, as you say, there were massive fires in the Algarve and over Castelo Branco way, not in this area. Perhaps that massive wake-up call from 2017 did some good, despite the awful situation that people were seeing around the world. We've only got a few minutes left, Paul, and we've got a couple of good questions from Steve. who's always keen to talk about these matters, of course. What are your thoughts on the government? I think we've covered that, maybe bringing more attention to the more rural areas like central Portugal or parts of the Alentejo. I think that if they incentivize moving to these locations, especially for businesses, the cure factor for Portugal, there will be something special. And he continues, do you think the government will eventually auction these forgotten properties? What are the rules around this? So do you get a sense, along with some of the incentives that you've already mentioned, that there might be more? Is anyone talking about that at the moment?
More government support?
Yeah, to have people move to the interior, to make it better known, and to incentivize it in even greater ways.
I mean, there is a employee grant. I think it's up to 3,000 or 4,000 for people moving to inland areas. I think I'm always suspicious of grant-led businesses. You know, if you have a big grant to set your factory up in the middle of nowhere, is that near your market? Is it the most sensible place? I'm kind of capitalist in leaning, in that I think money talks, and if you want to set up a wood chipping factory, you're going to do it in the middle of the forested area. An ice cream factory, you'll have one in Cascais or the Algarve. You know,
yes,
I don't think artificial government incentives work long term. I think you end up with white elephants, and the country is full. The country has herds of white elephants.
I've not seen that on any of the tourist brochures, but that would be this. April 1st is coming up. We could do something on the herds of white elephants that you could see in central Portugal. You're talking about the pink cycling pavement, presumably that sort of thing, where EU money comes in, and there's an incongruous pink cycling pavement that starts at one roundabout next to a dual carriageway and then suddenly ends. It's those sort of things I think you're referring to, right?
Well, yeah, it is, and it's things where the Algarve Stadium is another one that sits in the middle of nowhere, costing 30 grand a month, and it's not much used. I think the biggest use was from the football club in Gibraltar, for one.
Good for them. Yes.
No, I think money talks, and if we provide services in the central region for tourism, more tourists come. There's certainly far more tourists wanting to come here than there is space. I mean, it's ludicrous. And for people to live here, we need to provide nice, current, livable houses equivalent that you would get in the south and in the Lisbon area. You know, in terms of finish, they're a fraction of the price, and all around you've got countryside that is like the best possible parts of Scotland, but without the midges. So it's
again, I've not seen that on a tourist brochure, but that could work, Paul.
Actually, yeah.
I think you'll be getting some calls, I think, from the copywriting team of Turismo Portugal. And you make a good point. Money does talk, and perhaps that's the way forward, is to be selling a particular kind of life in central Portugal to people who can afford it and want to do that. And maybe it's a different kind of 15-minute experience. You know, you're living 15 minutes by car from a city where you can get all the amenities and then live in the splendor you're talking about in a very nicely appointed, refurbished home with the most amazing views. You're connected to the internet by some very good Portuguese fiber connection, broadband. Yeah, and that's a lifestyle worth selling, isn't it, around the world?
Yeah, it is. And in terms of affording it, you know, if you've got 100 grand, I don't know what you could buy in the Algarve now. Well, certainly not Lisbon. If you've 100 grand here, you've got a load of choice. You've got a load of choices. You know, it's there's affordability with the connectivity, with its positioning. Portugal Grand is 3,400 people in the whole camera, and it's open door policy to people like me and Stephen, saying the more old buildings you can prize out of the hands of owners and renovate, the more people come. They're sold quickly, you know, and it's phenomenal. If you look at it economically and in percentage terms, there's no shortage of stock, put it that way. So working hard to create nice homes that people buy and move here and love. They use them as AL or part-time, summertime only, or full-time all year round. So it's
lucky people, and keep up that great work. Keep up that great work, Paul. I'll leave you to go and listen to more music. I could hear it occasionally coming through the loudspeakers of the. It's like you're in a Chinese car park, with government messaging coming through the speakers. Is it a bit like that? But it's more sort of consumerism rather than politics coming through.
It is. It's special offers. If I ate pork, I would be rushing to the pork counter right now.
You're getting these urges, are you? That it's working its magic on you. All right.
It's almost subliminal,
Yes. Well, I'm interested to see your receipt later on to see what you've succumbed to in the Intermarché car park there in central Portugal. Always great talking to you. See you again next month. Yeah, keep up that great work over there. Ciao, ciao. All right, see you, mate. Thank you very much for being here. There he goes. And we will keep the applause going because we've got Heather Binder joining us. The Heather Binder, everyone.
Hello.
Yes. Good morning to you, Heather B. How are you this morning?
I'm pretty good. I apologize for the glare behind me, but my blinds are needing servicing, so they are stuck at the moment.
We haven't done a blind maintenance special. Mrs. M doesn't know how strong she is. I think she has seen to a few of the blinds in our house as well. Oh, why do I always say these things just as she walks into
just to get in trouble?
She's a strong, independent woman, and sometimes that
backfires. I understand that very much. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm also taking it as a sign. When we spoke to Jacqui in Cascais earlier, there was beautiful sunshine bursting through her windows. We spoke to Paul there in a car park, an Intermarché car park in near the Serra da Estrela mountain range. Also beautiful sunshine. It's coming through my back passage is very well lit this morning, and it looks like you've got glorious sunshine in Caldas as well.
Yeah, we have really good southern exposure, so I get the morning sun, which is awesome because it warms up the house and is pretty. But when I'm on Zoom or podcasts or whatnot, it does this. So
I think it's heavenly. It's a heavenly effect there. And the things you learn on this show, honestly, look, you can make toilet paper with bamboo. Aren't you glad you came this morning?
It's strangely stretchy. There's always like such good like bunghole and like there's always like these little catchphrases and my mind just like strangely right to the gutter every time. I mean, I've been on for like a minute and we're already like strangely stretchy.
We've gone to strangely stretchy, haven't we?
I'd
buy that. I imagine Paul is going to be buying some strangely stretchy bamboo toilet paper, especially if he's conditioned to do so by the PA system of the Intermarché car park. Leela also joining us. Good morning to you. Good morning, Portugal. And Heather, who's in the cage?
That's the question.
It is,
so my African gray parrot is normally in the cage, but she actually sleeps in my bedroom in a kennel or travel kennel. So she can watch me because I'm her person, and that's what African grays do is watch their significant other basically as they sleep. And so I keep her in bed because she needs to sleep about 12 to 14 hours right now a day. So she's still sleeping.
Oh, I love hearing about the habits of parrots with you. And so do you wake up, like that spooky thing? Sometimes you might get it if you're staying with an elderly aunt or grandma and there's an old doll that's parked up on a shelf in the room, and you wake up and go, ah! Oh, thank goodness, it's just the doll with those. Does parrots sleep with one eye open to keep an eye on you in that similar way?
I don't think she sleeps with one eye open per se, although they are supposed to like sort of take turns watching their chosen birdie. But wonderful. I think she definitely knows what I'm up to, and she's paying attention, and she's made a kissy noise this morning, and when I got up and the cat got up, and she talks sometimes, but she's not supposed to. She should be sleeping, but she woke me up the other morning saying another inane thing that my husband taught her.
Oh, really? What a wonderful situation.
Well,
Okay, can you?
he teaches her the weirdest, he teaches her made up stuff. She says words,
Yeah.
but he teaches her like literal things he made up that are strange. And for
Yeah.
some reason, she's fascinated. So she's always picking up weird words. So when I was first with him, he literally tricked me, and because I had a dog named Junebug, and he was like, "Yoing is Icelandic for Junebug," and he tricked me into thinking that because I didn't know not to believe him at first. This is like 10 years ago. And anyways, he goes home for the weekend, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden the bird just starts going yoing, yoing, yoing. It's like a broken record because that's what they do when they first learn a new word that they really like. So, anyways, he's always teaching her stuff like that. I'm like, teacher, put some Portuguese or like, like
Yes.
words. And she does talk some, but anyways, maybe it's good because at least she doesn't say bad things. She just says
Not
made
yet.
up things.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's see if she comes into the room. Maybe we can teach her something through the Gumper community here. Yes. So we've not talked about Portugal yet. We've just got one more toilet comment. I think I love my Japanese toilet, says Pete, and this is a true story. I think the targeting, air drying, and most of all the heated seat. I do hate a chilly bum first thing in the morning. Oh,
True
and
story.
wishing a Ramadan Mubarak of Muslims in Portugal. Thank you, Leela, as well. And yes, I've got a little bit of education on Ramadan from Frank, which I'll probably share in the next couple of days as well. So thank you for my education there, Frank. I just fessed up. So I know nothing about Ramadan, really, apart from a sort of customary, yes, Ramadan Mubarak, and not knowing what I was talking about. So I found out a bit more from Frank. So thank you for that, FD. And yes, so let's talk about how helpful you've been to people in the last 48, 72 hours, I think, Heather, especially so because the CEF portal is out of mothballs?
Yeah, I'm no expert on the portals because, things change all the time. But I was able to get on and log into my father's CEF and do the automatic renewal. And then one of my good friends did the same, and they got their renewal, and they'd been trying to get, appointments and unsuccessfully, of course. And so when I told them to do this and it worked, it was really exciting. And then that was last Friday, I did that. And then Sunday, 48 hours later, I could pay for it. So I went to ATM on Sunday and did the magic reference number and was able to pay. So yay. So we did automatic renewal for my 84-year-old dad, which is great because tracking him hours away for a residency renewal appointment is not pleasant idea. So that was really good. And of course, he was expired in December. And so that was really good. So just to clarify, only already expired or expiring in the first quarter, which would be by the end of March, is my understanding. That's what's potentially eligible to auto renew on CEF right now. If you already have the residency card, if you're new here and you just have the visa, it's your first one, this will not work for you. So don't waste your time. If you have family reunification, that's a whole nother ball of wax. So don't waste your time there. But if you're at the end of your first 2-year period or your subsequent 3-year period or one of those, then this should work. At the same time, I think I crashed it because I announced it and I think everyone flocked to it, and then it kind of went a little sideways again, maybe. But the key thing is to follow the instructions because you have to keep it in Portuguese. If you convert it to English, it literally will give you an error and won't work.
So there's a bit of a glitch, and you lose contact with what you're trying to do.
But I did. If people email me, if they would like, I will send them the instructions. So it's Heather and then bootsonthegroundpt.com. So if you need those instructions, if you're my Facebook friend, which you're welcome to be, Heather Binder, or our Facebook friend, on Boots on the Ground Portugal on Facebook, I also posted the instructions there, so people can follow those, and it's got the Portuguese. So if you are English speaking, you can follow that and not have an issue.
Okay,
hopefully.
that's it there, right? Heather at bootsonthegroundpt.com to get an email.
You got it.
Well, that's
Yes.
wonderful. That's wonderful. The bird, that's hilarious. Pinky enjoying the parrot talk, the Portuguese parrot talk this morning. And yes, so has your bird's got Portuguese citizenship? I guess, sort of just a
She
natural.
does. Well, I mean, I
Right.
don't know if citizenship's a push, but she does have a passport. She has a pet passport. And I did bring her from Arizona, and she's on the endangered list. Unfortunately, now is since 2017, I think, African gray Congos ended up on the endangered list. And so that was quite the ordeal. So
Yeah.
yes, I learned a lot about, as I know a lot from experience of a million and one crazy things that to do in transitioning and moving to Portugal, which is of course why I help people do all those things. And we really focus on being your guide, and not just visas, because visas obviously really important, but we really, really are focusing on the other aspects, the soft aspects, the other hard aspects, helping people transition, really looking to kind of build that side of services, because there's nobody that helps you from thinking if I even should move to all the way through to 2 years in and getting your driver's license and having a residency card, and just like and building community being really a big huge thing. I know you're a big proponent of as well.
That's great. And is that where the action is at the moment? Because it's fascinating. Mrs. M, as an astrologer, she'll say,
Right.
wow, that's incredible. I've spoken to 3 Geminis today, and they're all in real estate, and they've all got, and they tend to group together by some sort of oggly boggly universal forces and energies that she gets these trends. Do you get the same thing with helping people move to Portugal? Similar sort of demographic representation? Is that what goes on with you as well?
I think I'm in Libra, so not a Gemini. And I would say ultimately, yes, there's definitely waves, kind of the Murphy's Law, like you're really busy or you're really slow or so there's waves and things. And I definitely see certain similarities with my clients, but I think that's because partially because of me, because people either gravitate towards me or really don't. And so if people like my energy and that, then they tend to be people that want to grow and enjoy this journey and are positive, and they're not doing all this crazy, weird, negative stuff we see everywhere. And they gravitate towards that. So I do see I wouldn't say a demographic as much as there's a certain sort of mindset of wanting to grow into this vibrant new life and being ready for that. And so I have really good success with my clients as far as transitioning and being happy here and staying. And I think that's because I do a very holistic sort of approach, if you will,
Well,
without sounding too hippie.
that's a great testimonial, isn't it? Or a great.
It's not a good testimonial when you're your own testimonial.
No, I know.
I
I was struggling for the right word there. It's a great observation.
Observation. There we go.
People who come under your guidance tend to stay. And I was going to say to you, is it less panicky, do you think? And because there was definitely a pandemic panic, wasn't it? It's like, well, we should get on with it and do it. And people did. And I think there might be other reasons why people are panicking and getting on with it.
There's a lot of political panic,
Right.
for good reason. When Roe v. Wade went, like, if I wasn't already here, I would have been signing up. You know what I mean? So, like, I get it. I get it. And so, yeah, I definitely had my first phone call that was just very much like, if the election goes this way, we're speeding up. Like, these are people who wanted to relocate anyways, but there's a lot of people out there that are moving younger than they expected, which I did as well.
Yeah,
but I did that.
Jacqui was saying that about how people in the group she works with, that the age is coming down for sure. But that also, I suppose, is part of trends of migration, isn't it? The people who tend to lead the way are the ones who are able to afford it and have got the time to devote to it. And they're the kind of trendsetters and leaders of the wave, and then others will follow in their footsteps, which it sounds like is what's going on at the moment. Hi, friends, says Cordelia this morning. Good morning to you, Cordelia. I posted up my conversation with Cordelia on our YouTube channel about
she's
the work
great.
she does with business people, the conversation she has with business people here in Portugal. That's up on our YouTube channel. And Bayahandi, just back from a gorgeous walk. Oh, it's a gorgeous morning, just back from a fab walk through the Bairrada. And here is a testimonial. Look, Cordelia says about you, Heather, you helped her find a pharmacy that was open one night at 11 p.m. Condoms are available from machines as well. You don't necessarily have to go. I'm only kidding, Cordelia. But sometimes that is a bit of a concern, isn't it? If you've had if you've been in casualty.
Well, yeah, I remember it was like 11:30 at night or something. And I've had a couple people contact me that were in sort of emergency sort of situations and, needing help. And there is a great app, which again, if you message me, I can give you that, or Carl can maybe post it. Do you know that app that tells you which pharmacy in your area?
To us, but yes, do you know what, Cordelia? I think might pop it into the chat for us.
She probably will.
Yeah, thank you.
There it is. Yeah, so that you can look on that, and that will tell you the 24-hour pharmacy in your area. And the reason that's important, it changes. So in Caldish, where I live, there's one pharmacy that will be 24 hours all the time, but they rotate between several pharmacies in town.
Yeah. Okay. And so you need to keep up with that using that app. Thank you so much, Cordelia. Really helpful. Farmaciadeserviso.net there. I got a question in from the OLP, who really should be in bed now at 3:41 in Montana.
My kind of person up in the middle of the night. I love it.
Can you answer that for the OLP?
Sure. Well, the monetary requirements for the D7, which is the passive income visa, went up with the minimum wage, which is 820 euros a month. So that's the current requirement for one person. And then if you have a significant other, they're going to be another 50% on top of that. And then each child's will be 30% on top of that. So 820 and divided out. And so those are also, if you take that annually, that's also the minimum requirement for funding the bank account. So it's about 10,000 euros for the primary person, 15,000 for a couple, etc. Adds another, I think it's 2,500 about a year per child.
Okay, thank you for answering that, Heather. Mary's here as well. Bon dia, Heather and Carl. Good
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Mary bought me this beautiful mug.
What a lovely connection.
By the way, from Denmark.
It is beautiful.
Yeah, her daughter lives in Denmark. I love this mug. So thanks again, Mary.
And Larry is asking, when is lunch?
When is lunch?
At
Palmyra.
Yeah, we're at Palmyra from 1 o'clock, Larry. See you there. Be looking forward to seeing you again in real life. At the meetup this lunchtime. So
I never make that. Sorry.
It's been noted.
I know.
But we'll have to come over to Caldesh to see you. And
you should come to the meetup on Tuesday next week.
I know. To trendy Caldesh Dereni, because I want to ask you about Caldesh. We've talked about Cascais this morning, where Jacqui is. We've talked about Central Portugal, where Paul Rees is doing some amazing work. Caldesh gets cooler and cooler. Is it Cool Dash? I think we might call it. We've got the Black Sheep Pub. We've got the beer festival this weekend. And every time I go there, I find something new tucked around a little corner. Is the popularity of a Cool Dash continuing, or are you trying to put a lid on it now? You don't want any more people moving there?
It's hard not to be a cheerleader for the area you live when you truly love it. And you see the benefits. So I will just say that. But I with my background in real estate and helping people move here and figure things out and figure out where to go and all the things, I am able to do something that a lot of people aren't, which is take their needs and separate them from my likes and try to help place. But absolutely, because this area is great for 1,000,001 reasons and is really popping. And this is, an amazing area for families, for, you know, and really why. But I definitely think that each region and each area has something for everyone. So it really is a matter of your situation and what you're looking for and what you want. But for us, we see these new stuff all the time. There's a ton going on, and it's the best. Shh.
Look, Cordelia agrees and likes the idea of yeah. And when there were so many Americans moving there, I did rename it Cali Dash, but I think that we can change it from Cali Dash to Cool Dash. Especially wonderful for families. My son can do almost all of his activities by walking. How wonderful! I'm out of the chauffeur business there, and Antonio, underlining your advice there to Oregonians loving Portugal, the OLP. Thank you, Heather, for that. And Antonio adding, it's always related to the minimum wage. 820 at the moment. That's likely to change, of course. It
changes every year, you know, basically. So yeah, when I get into third quarter, I always kind of update that, because, you know, starting to get into fourth quarter submissions and beginning of the year and stuff. So yeah, definitely keep up on that if you're not gonna be moving forward till later, or get in touch with us and we'll help you.
Yeah, excellent. So what's coming up then in Cool Dash? Anything you want to tell us about, including your meetup, of course?
Yeah, the meetup I have Tuesday night. It's always the third Tuesday of the month from 6 to 8, and it's at Toca 7. And again, you can see that on my Facebook page, personal, as well as the business page. And I think I have posted that to the your platform as well, Carl.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excuse me. And that's great. Come on out. We have people traveling all the time. And the last couple ones, I've had my own clients that were here looking for housing in Lisbon and in Caldish, 2 different sets of clients. And then this last one, I actually had clients that just arrived that were mine that, you know, actually are here now. So that's exciting. As well as people that, you know, are just friends. You absolutely you can be a local, you can be anybody. So as long as you're open-minded and welcoming, we welcome you. As far as other things, yeah, there's like beer festival there this weekend at the, I think it's at the Expo Center, and there's some music stuff going on. I have a WhatsApp group for anybody that wants to join that for the area, and we post all the goings on and the different flyers and so forth. And so that also allows people to connect if they're looking to, hey, I want to get dinner. Anyone want to meet up tonight in town, or, you know, whatever. So that's all really important as well.
Okay, excellent. Mary, my 2 dogs and 2 cats got their Portugal pet passport a week or 2 after I arrived. Can't wait until I get mine. Well, maybe one way of doing it, if you identify as a cat or a dog, which some people do these days, you might get your residency documents faster.
Mary, I don't think you're getting a pet passport. But I think Mary means she can't wait till she gets her Portuguese passport, which she's working on. So yes. Yeah, it'll be a few years yet, but definitely she'll be in line for that. So that's great.
Here's another question for us this morning, Heather. Good to have you here. Any good places to rent for a month in your beautiful city? Now, San Martino, very touristy, and it will get expensive. If you rent for a month, you'll probably be paying tourist prices. Certainly, as you know, as we go from spring into summer, it gets more expensive. I'd love you to come and see us here in San Martino de Porto, but you might get better value down the road in in Caldas de Rainha, Caldas de Rainha, and then you can come to San Martino. You can go to Foz, and you're on the rail network to get to other places.
Peniche, Foz, we can get all over so easily, and Alcobaça, Nazaré. It's a great area for that. So yeah, definitely we can help with that and check it out, because Carl and I are like 20 minutes away from each other. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, September. Well, definitely. I mean, if you want to stay in San Martino de Porto, you'd be most welcome, and I'm sure we can find you a month's rental. And
yeah, September is a good time because it's like cuspy.
Yeah. It can change in a day. The crowded beaches, you know, once the kids have gone back to school, people come back to work, it's deserted again. That's a lovely time to come, OLP. So hopefully we'll see you then. What were you going to add to that?
Well, someone asked, do you have to have a pet passport? No, you don't. You can arrive, on the health certificate. You do have to have health certificate depending on where you're coming from. And you're welcome to be my Facebook friend. I see that comment there. And anyways, it's Heather Binder, Binder, and you'll see my smiling face. And anyways, what was I saying? Oh, pet passport. So no, you do not have to have a pet passport. When you arrive, you can take your pet to the vet and request a pet passport at that point, which would then allow you to travel in, I don't know exactly what it allows you to do. Actually, I guess go to the other Schengen countries with your pet without having to go through that rigmarole. But pets are good in Portugal.
It's the vaccination record as well, isn't it? We're talking about the same document.
It is really what it is. It's the record, and it's got the microchip and all of that good stuff. So yeah,
it's another taxation opportunity, I think, because I adopted it. Well, I didn't. This family adopted a cat, Mrs. M. We got 3 cats. All right, it just turned out.
I was gonna say a cat. I thought there was 3. Yeah,
there are 3. There are 3 of the blighters in this house. Sorry to cat fans. I'm more of a dog person. I think that's a matter of record. Now,
I got my husband to admit that he loved cat last night. I was so excited.
Yeah, this happens. No, I know there's my family tricked me into that all the time. I'll be petting a cat.
You got tricked.
Yeah, I get it. No, it happens a lot. I'll be petting a cat because it's it's the right thing to do. The cat will be purring away. It's like, oh, a little moment, and they go, oh, look, Dad, you do love cats, don't you? Like, no, I don't. Get off. But this is what happened to me. I got a CTT man turned up outside on the buzzer. You need to sign for something. I think, oh, what now? Because usually it's some government thing you've forgotten about or overlooked, and they suddenly sending you a massive bill or summons or something like that.
Right.
What
CTT
now?
meaning the post office. Basically.
Yeah, the man on his moped. Yeah. The man on his moped. And he gets me to sign. Have you got some ID? I think, oh, this is serious. And it was it was because I'd put my name down on one of these cat things, an operation or something. Suddenly, Alcabasa camera have decided I am the nominated human for this cat, and I get sent the passport. And it felt really serious. This is massive as well, because as I was feeling the envelope, as the guy was giving it to us, I was like, blimey, what's this? This is like pages and pages of court documents or something. I thought it was some really serious infringement of Portuguese law. And it's a Portuguese pet passport. A bit over the top, I think, especially when so many animals are strays here. And then suddenly when you try and help out, you think, oh, hold on a minute, what does this mean? I'm now owned by this cat, is what it feels like. Anyway, does this include pugs dressed like Barbie dolls?
Well, I'm a pug believer. Absolutely.
Believer. Sure. Okay, but
Douglas Hughes. He's the guy that commented and made this whole fit because there was my mother-in-law posted a really cute picture of a pug dressed in clothing, which I have to tell you, Douglas Hughes.
Come on,
I have to say, I had a pug. Her name was Talia. She was beautiful. Yep. She loved wearing clothes. And one time during Halloween, we went to the store and we got outfits for all the dogs. We had quite a few rescue pugs. And we dressed them all up and we came home and we put her in these fairy wings. And she was so pissed off because they were just wings. They weren't a full costume. We literally had to go back to the store, Carl, return the wings and buy her this whole ladybug costume that was full body.
Much happier.
Because she wouldn't settle down. She was freaking out.
A cat would be so ungrateful. This is part of the reason I don't like cats. They haven't got a sense of humor. Yes, exactly. Now, I think what's going on is a bit of jealousy. Doug is transferring here. He's projecting. I think Doug would like to dress like Barbie. And he's taken offense.
He actually was a really nasty comment, and I blocked him, which I rarely do.
But it was
he actually called it cruelty, which I get it. Anthropomorphizing. Wow, I said that.
Yes, nicely done.
But you can't judge because
Doug.
I had a dog. I've had dogs that hated wearing clothes, of course, and I don't dress my animals all the time, but it's fun.
I think there's a moment of connection between you here because look, all pugs look pissed off.
All pugs look pissed off. Well, hey. As long as they're positive about it, it's okay.
And Doug's bitter because he can't dress like Barbie and in his work life. And I am apparently because my cat gets more mail than I do. Yes, that's true. That's true. And I
I
have to pay
wish my cat got more mail than me. God, that would be amazing.
I think we can organise that. Maybe next time, Heather. It is 1 minute past 10. We need to go and help people move to Portugal. So thank you very much for being here this morning. I shall say goodbye to you now. I need to have a look at Owen's dinner from last night. So I'll say goodbye to you now, and we'll see you soon back on this screen here. Thanks for being with us this morning. Ciao, ciao.
Absolutely.
All right,
Bye-bye.
love to you and all your animals over there, and to the husband who teaches the parrot strange words. I do on a Friday. Okay, so watch us on our new podcast at 9 o'clock on Friday evening, where Doug promises to be dressed like Barbie. And if Heather, you've still got those wings, I think they would make a fine addition to Dougie's outfit as well. Let's take a look at Owen's dinner, which he's very kindly sent us on an 00351 00351 913 590 303. This looks fabulous. Only trouble is can't find it right now. Oh yeah, here it is. Not a dog's dinner, as we were talking about there with Heather, or a cat's dinner, but a beautiful. What is this that Owen's cooked up last night? So juicy, he says. A sous vide veal steak, pan fried, carrot leek and potato mash, creamed mushrooms and spinach. Video to follow on Owen's Food Alchemy on YouTube. And of course, we'll see him again soon on Craft Beer Corner. Are you going to come and see us in Caldas at the weekend? We're going to see James there from the Anson Brewery, of course, from Lorigna. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think Saturday is the day that we'll be at the beer festival in Caldas. Going to get the train over there and have a few beers. Woohoo, says Doug. Looking forward to his Wings and Barbie outfit. And can Barbie dress like a pug? I guess so. Today's show has opened so many cans of worms that we can't possibly conclude or resolve or come to any agreement on this morning. But we've got tomorrow, and we'll see you with the Portugueser after his controversial, well, the latest of his controversial videos. The Portugueser on YouTube. Check it out, and you can have a chat with him tomorrow when he joins us tomorrow morning on the Thursday edition of the Good Morning Portugal show. So we'll see you then. Take care and bye for now. You can have one of these. A nice big round of applause for you, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Take care. Bye for now.